Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The petals were still falling when the laughter started. At first it was soft, a restrained chuckle from someone in the back row, then a few more, quiet, cruel, contagious, like the first drops of a storm that everyone feels but no one dares. Name. Isabella gripped her bouquet tighter. Her palms were sweating, but it wasn't nerves. She knew something was wrong. The music had stopped. The organ player's fingers had frozen mid-chord. A thick silence pressed down on the grand chapel, broken only by muffled whispers and the rustle of designer fabrics. The laughter swelled again, not joyful, but mocking, sharp, humiliating, a cut to the bone. Isabella stood still, her white gown trailing behind her like innocence dragged through mud. The lace veil tickled her shoulders, but she didn't move. Couldn't move. Her breath caught in her chest like a held-in scream. Her eyes searched the faces in the crowd. Some looked away, some smirked, some recorded. She turned slowly, heart hammering, and saw Clarissa, her soon-to-be sister-in-law, rise from the front pew with an all-too-perfect smile stretching across her lipsticked mouth. Clarissa raised her phone and tapped play. A voice filled the chapel. "Yeah, I'm marrying her to make my father shut up. She's convenient, not exactly princess. Material, but she'll do for now." It was Leo. Her Leo. The man waiting at the altar, the man who had once brushed her hair back from her face and whispered, "I've never loved anyone like this." Now his voice echoed off sacred walls, arrogant and unrepentant. Isabella couldn't breathe. Her fingers dug into the silk ribbon of her bouquet. Her vision blurred, but she refused to cry. Not here, not in front of them. Clarissa lowered her phone. "Oops," she said sweetly. "Guess the truth has a way of slipping out." Gasps rippled through the audience. One woman's hand flew to her chest. An older man shook his head and muttered, "Shameless." Isabella turned toward Leo. He didn't even look ashamed. In fact, he looked bored. He adjusted his cufflinks and shrugged. "Might as well know now, Bella." His voice was cold, disinterested. "You don't belong here," he said flatly. "This isn't a charity case. My father made me propose to you because of your supposed connections. We thought you had wealth, old money. Turned out you don't. You played your part. Now it's over." Laughter scattered through the chapel. Not everyone, but enough to cut like glass. Isabella took a step back. This couldn't be happening. She looked at her mother, pale, trembling. Her best friend Alina, mouth open in horror. And then she looked to the very back pew, where a man sat alone, his hands folded neatly in his lap. Her father. He stood, not quickly, not dramatically, just with quiet purpose. His name was Adrian, and he had always been a man of few words. A mechanic, people thought. A recluse, the kind of man who fixed things in silence and kept to himself. But as he began to walk down the aisle, a hush fell over the chapel again. Not of curiosity, of something heavier, something ancient. Isabella's eyes widened. Her father never came forward in public, never raised his voice, never made himself seen, but now his posture was different. His face, calm but iron-hard. His walk, not just purposeful, but regal. "Enough," Adrian said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The air changed. Clarissa blinked. Leo scoffed. "Oh, please. What are you going to do, polish the chandelier?" A few chuckled nervously, but Adrian kept walking. He reached the altar, stepped between Leo and Isabella, and slowly reached inside his jacket. "I tried to give my daughter a normal life," he said quietly. "A life without expectations, without enemies, without bloodlines and politics." He pulled out a leather folder, but clearly that was a mistake. He opened it. Inside was a thick envelope, golden sealed. "My name, he said, turning toward the crowd, is Adrian al-Hassan bin Rashid, former commander of the Royal Guard of Ashar, and currently the sole surviving heir to the House of Rashid, a dynasty that built nations before most of you learned to walk. Dead silence. Even Clarissa's lips parted. Leo blinked. What are you talking about? Adrian's gaze didn't waver. Isabella is not a charity case. She is the direct descendant of Sheikh Omar Rashid, and under his will, she is also the primary beneficiary of the estate. People began to murmur. Phones lifted. A woman in a red dress gasped, "She's a princess." I hid our lineage to protect her, Adrian continued. I gave her a humble life because the royal court is filled with poison. I thought I could keep her safe. His voice broke slightly, just slightly, then hardened again. But I see now the poison found her anyway. Leo took a shaky step back. Wait, you're saying? I'm saying, Adrian said, turning to him, you just publicly humiliated the granddaughter of a king, and you did it for greed. He handed the golden-sealed envelope to Isabella, who stood there, still frozen. Her hands trembled as she touched it. I don't understand, she whispered. I'll explain everything, her father said gently. But not here, not among snakes. He turned to the crowd. This wedding is over. And just like that, he offered his arm to his daughter. She didn't take it immediately. She looked around. The faces of people who had smiled at her minutes ago were now masks of fear, shock, regret. Not one person stood for her. Not one spoke. In her defense, they had laughed, they had watched, they had let it happen. And Leo, he simply stood there, hands in pockets, saying nothing. So Isabella did the only thing left. She dropped the bouquet and walked out. Not as a bride, but as something no one in that room truly understood. Outside, the wind bit hard. Her veil flew from her hair and landed in a nearby puddle. She didn't care. Her father followed quietly. They reached the car, a simple black sedan, and got inside. Only then did she finally speak. Why didn't you ever tell me? Adrian was silent for a long time. Then he said, because being royalty doesn't protect you, Bella. It paints a target on your back. The court was dangerous. Your mother was hunted. That's how she died. They said it was illness, but it wasn't. Isabella froze. What? She was pregnant with you when she fled. I faked our deaths, escaped to the west. I wanted you to grow up free, not trapped in a palace, not used for alliances. Tears slipped down her cheeks. So why now, she asked. Why tell the truth now? Adrian looked at her and his voice turned dark. Because they've found us again. The people who killed your mother. The ones who want the Rashid bloodline extinguished. And now you're the only living heir. Isabella's heart dropped. What do they want? They want you gone, or controlled. And Leo's family. They were part of it. This wedding was a trap. They were trying to get legal control of your inheritance before the truth came out. The world blurred outside the car windows. Isabella leaned back, overwhelmed, her body shaking from more than just the cold. So what do we do? She whispered. Adrian stared straight ahead. We survive. We fight back, and we reclaim what was stolen from us. Meanwhile, back inside the chapel, Leo sat in the front pew, motionless. Clarissa hissed, "Why didn't you tell me she was royalty?" Leo didn't answer, because suddenly he remembered something. A night 2 months ago, when he found a letter in Adrian's study, written in a language he didn't recognize. He had dismissed it. Now he realized what it had been, and that he had just made the most powerful enemy of his life. His father stepped forward, phone to his ear. "We have a problem," he said into the receiver. "The girl knows. And the father, he's not who we thought he was." The voice on the other end was cold. "Terminate them both." Rain whispered against the windows as Isabella sat in the dimly lit study of a house she never knew existed. The walls were stone, old, cold. Fire crackled in the hearth, but the warmth didn't reach her. Her wedding dress lay discarded on the floor like a ghost, wrinkled, torn, no longer white. Her hands trembled as she gripped the golden-sealed envelope her father had given her hours ago. She hadn't opened it yet. She was afraid that once she saw what was inside, she couldn't go back to being who she was yesterday. Adrian watched her from the doorway, silent. "How long have you had this place?" she finally asked. 24 years, he replied. "Bought it under a fake name when we disappeared. It's never been tracked. Only the dead knew about it." Her eyes flickered up. "And now me." He nodded. "You were always meant to." "No, just not like this." She looked back at the envelope. "You said Mom didn't die from illness." Adrian stepped closer, his voice low, steady. "No. She was poisoned by someone inside the royal circle. She was carrying you at the time. That's why I ran. I faked our deaths, burned everything." "Why didn't you take revenge?" Isabella asked. "I was a father, not a soldier anymore. Revenge means war, and war would have meant your life at risk." She opened the envelope. Inside were photographs, documents, maps, a family tree, a will with an ancient royal seal. She saw herself, a baby in her mother's arms, standing before a palace that no longer existed. The headline on an old news clipping read, "Mystery Fire, Kills Rashid, Princess and Child, Terror Attack, Suspected She." Blinked. "They thought we died in a fire." "I made sure they believed it," Adrian said. She kept flipping through. Then she stopped. A single photo, one that punched her in the gut. It was Leo's father, standing beside a man she didn't recognize, a general maybe, both in uniform. In the background was the burned wreckage of a building. Adrian leaned over her shoulder. "That was the day your mother died." She turned to him. "You knew Leo's family was connected to the people who tried to kill us?" "I suspected, but I wasn't sure until the wedding. That video, that setup, it was too perfect. Someone wanted you humiliated publicly so you wouldn't ask questions later." Isabella's voice cracked. "Why me? I've never done anything to anyone." "Because," Adrian said, "you're the last living Rashid. And the Rashids owned something they all want." Her eyes narrowed. "What?" "A vault." He knelt beside her and pulled out a black metal box from under the table. Inside it was a hand-drawn map. Cryptic symbols, coordinates, dates. The House of Rashid didn't just rule. It protected secrets, bank accounts, gold, intelligence records from 4 decades, blackmail material on nearly every royal house across the Gulf and beyond. "That vault is real, and your mother, she had half the code." Isabella froze. "You mean someone killed her for a vault code?" Adrian's jaw clenched. "And now they're after you for the other half." Outside, thunder cracked. Rain turned harder, angrier. A flash of headlights passed the window. Adrian moved fast. He switched off the lamp, grabbed a pistol from beneath the bookshelf. "Stay down," he whispered. "Wait, what?" He crept to the window. Carefully. 3 black SUVs had pulled up outside the gate. Isabella's chest tightened. "Who are they?" she whispered. "The ones who never stopped hunting." He handed her a small burner phone. "There's a number already saved. Memorize it. If I don't come back in 5 minutes..." She grabbed his arm. "No, don't say that." He looked at her, not as a mechanic, not even as a father, but as a warrior from a life she never knew he had lived. "You have to be strong now, Bella," he said. This is just the beginning." Then he was gone. She ducked under. The table, heart racing, eyes wide. Gunfire shattered the night. Meanwhile, miles away, Leo was in a room with walls of glass and marble, the kind reserved for kings and criminals. His father, Victor Moreau, stood at the window, swirling whiskey in a glass. "You embarrassed yourself," Victor said coldly. "And worse, you woke a ghost." Leo sat on the leather couch, staring at the floor. "I didn't know. You told me she was just a waitress with a decent backstory." Victor turned. She is the rightful heir to one of the most dangerous legacies on Earth. And you handed her back to the man we've spent 20 years trying to erase. Leo clenched his jaw. I didn't ask for this. No, Victor said, voice sharp. You asked for power. This was your ticket. And now we have to clean up your mess. He tapped a code into his phone. Activate Nightfall Protocol, he said. A voice replied, confirmed. Target? Isabella Rashid and her father. Leo shot up. Wait, what? Victor didn't blink. This isn't personal, it's survival. Back at the hideout, Isabella crawled to the kitchen. Every shadow felt like it had eyes. She reached for a butcher knife with shaking hands. Then footsteps. Not one pair. Multiple. She braced herself behind the counter. Gunshots. Shouting. A man crashed through the window, a tall figure in black. She raised the knife, but he held. Upper badge, Interpol. Are you Isabella Rashid? He asked. She nodded, confused, terrified. He grabbed her arm. Your father sent me. He's buying you time. Come now. They sprinted into the back hallway, more gunshots behind them. Fire. Her ears rang. The house was going up in flames. Where's my father? She screamed. He stayed behind, the agent said grimly. He told me to get you out, or die trying. They burst into the night, climbed into a black jeep, and tore off down the road. Isabella looked back once. The house, her only safe place, was burning. Tears blurred her vision. Why now? She asked. Why today? The agent, a man named Duarte, said nothing for a long time. Then he said, because someone told them you were alive. She looked at him. Who? He hesitated, then said one word. Alina, her best friend. The one who stood beside her at the altar, the one who cried when Leo broke her heart. She was the leak in a private room at Victor Moreau's estate. Alina sat on a velvet couch, sipping champagne. Victor entered. You did well, he said. I did what you paid me for, she replied coolly, and I want the rest, now. He tossed a briefcase on the table. She opened it. Money, diamonds, a passport. She still doesn't know it was me, Alina said with a smirk. She never will. Victor raised an eyebrow. Are you so sure? Alina paused. You said they wouldn't survive tonight. Victor smiled coldly. I said they'd be hunted. That's different. Back in the safe house jeep, Isabella stared ahead, numb. Her father might be dead, her best friend betrayed her, and the man she almost married had tried to trap her for money and power. I have nothing left, she whispered. Agent Duarte looked at her. No, he said quietly. You have everything they fear, truth, blood, and the key. She turned to him. What key? He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a flash drive and an old photo. In it was her mother, holding a baby and smiling, but in the background, hidden in shadow, was a painting, and in the painting, carved into the frame, were numbers, coordinates, a code. The vault still exists, Duarte said, and it's time you opened it. The storm outside had passed, but inside the safe house nestled in the Pyrenees Mountains, a colder storm brewed. Isabella sat at the old wooden desk, Duarte beside her. Her fingers hovered over the encrypted flash drive. It looked ordinary, but Duarte said it was the map to everything, her mother's half of the vault code, the files her enemies were killing for, and the key to her true identity. She stared at the screen. What happens if I open this? Duarte's voice was firm. You become a threat to every royal intelligence and corporate figure who profited from your family's erasure. She exhaled shakily. So I'm already a target. Yes, he said, but this will make you the one thing they fear more than a princess, a witness. She clicked. The screen flashed. Then lines of code, audio files, scanned pages. 1. Document popped up in French. Project Sandglass. Agreement of asset distribution. House of Rashid and Western partners. Attached was a list. Over 50 names. Heads of state. CEOs. Military generals. Leo's father. Victor Moreau was on it. She scrolled further and found a line that made her blood run cold. In event of royal line termination, vault access transfers to House Moreau and Consortium. They had a plan, she whispered. To eliminate us and inherit everything. Duarte nodded. Your father suspected as much. He tried to warn others, but no one believed him. So he ran. Isabella's heart twisted. Is he dead? We don't know, Duarte said. No body, no signal, but the fact that he got you out means he bought you time. She clicked on the vault coordinates. Northern Jordan, a small Bedouin ruin in the desert, long dismissed. As ancient myth. What's inside? She asked. No one knows, Duarte replied, but whatever it is, the world's most powerful people would kill to keep it buried. Meanwhile, in an underground medical facility near Geneva, Adrian, Rashid opened his eyes, every inch of him burned. His shoulder was bandaged, IV lines ran into his arms, machines beeped faintly. Where is she? He croaked. A nurse leaned over. Safe, your daughter made it out. He relaxed. Barely. Victor Moreau had underestimated him again, but this time, Adrian wasn't going to run. Back in the safe house, Isabella sat cross-legged on the floor, her mother's wedding ring in her hand. Duarte was asleep on the couch, pistol by his chest. But Isabella couldn't sleep. Every betrayal played in her mind. Alina's smile, Leo's silence, Victor's cold control. The humiliation at the altar, her ruined dreams, the lies. Suddenly the burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. She picked it up. A voice, trembling, familiar. Bella, please don't hang up. It's me, Alina. Her breath caught. You traitor! No, Alina sobbed. I know what I did, but you have to listen. Isabella didn't speak. They promised me they'd leave you alone. They said they just needed to track Adrian. I didn't know. They'd try to kill you. You sold me for what? Money? Status? No, Alina cried. I was in debt. They threatened my brother. I swear I didn't know Victor would activate. Nightfall protocol. You stood beside me on my wedding day, Isabella whispered. You held my hand, and the whole time you were helping them set me up. Silence, then. I want to make it right. Isabella almost laughed. There's no making this right, Alina. I can get you into the vault, Alina said quietly. Isabella froze. What? I've seen part of the second code. Victor's been trying to crack it for years. But I saw the notebook. I memorized it. I can give it to you. Isabella's voice hardened. Why now? Because they've stopped trusting me, Alina said. They know I hesitated. If they find out I called you, I'm dead, Isabella's mind raced. Where are you? Zurich. They're watching me, but I can slip out for an hour. If you want the code, meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m., Fraumünster Church. The line went dead. Duarte stirred on the couch. What was that? Isabella looked up, cold fire in her eyes, a crack in the wall. Next day, Zurich 2:52 p.m. Fraumünster stood tall and still, bathed in afternoon light. Isabella entered alone. Duarte stayed outside, monitoring. Alina sat in the third pew, sunglasses on, scarf over her hair. She looked thinner, pale, haunted. I didn't come to forgive you, Isabella said. I didn't come to ask, Alina replied. She reached into her coat and handed over a folded paper. This is the second sequence. They think it's a biblical cipher, but I cracked it. I had to. For them. Isabella took it. A pause. Then Alina whispered, Leo didn't know the full plan. Victor never trusted him. He was just bait. Isabella blinked. Then why? Because they needed you to fall, Alina said, her voice breaking. To break you, to make you forget who you were. I almost did. They sat in silence. Alina reached into her purse. There's something else. But before she could pull it out, a red dot landed on her chest. Sniper crack. The window shattered. Alina dropped to the floor, blood pouring from her shoulder. Isabella screamed and dove behind the pews. Chaos erupted. Duarte kicked open the side door and dragged her out through a side corridor. Alina coughed, eyes wide. They know you're going to the vault." Then she passed out. Hours later, safe house, Duarte paced. "She gave us the second code. That means you now have full access." Isabella sat quietly. She risked her life. Isabella whispered, "Even if it came too late." "We leave tonight," Duarte said. "Jordan, we go dark, military route only. No flights, no signals." She nodded, but her mind was no longer on survival. It was on purpose. For the first time in her life, Isabella knew who she was. Not just a bride, not a waitress, not a pawn. She was Isabella Rashid, daughter of a slain princess, rightful heir to a legacy built on secrets, and they had tried to erase her. Now she was going to expose them. Meanwhile, Victor sat in his private bunker, eyes on a screen. Footage of the church, the sniper, the blood. Leo stood behind him, face pale. "What are you doing?" Victor turned slowly. "Cleaning up." "She wasn't a threat." "She gave Isabella the code," Victor said coldly. "That makes her more dangerous than you ever were." Leo slammed his fist on the table. "You used me." Victor stood, tall, towering, icy. "You were never the heir. You were the decoy, a pretty face with a good name. You think love matters in a war like this?" Leo looked away, but something had shifted in him. Victor didn't notice. He turned back to the screens. "They're going to the vault. Follow them. And when she opens it, take everything." Desert of Wadi Rum, Jordan, 2 days later. The moon was full. Isabella and Duarte hiked through the crags of ancient sandstone. They reached a hidden chamber, an iron gate carved into rock, rusted and ancient. She input the coordinates, typed the passcode, her mother's half, then Alina's sequence. The door groaned, stone shifted, and the vault opened. Inside, darkness, then blue light. Shelves upon shelves of files, flash drives, golden seals, weapons, cameras, bank ledgers, royal documents, evidence of every deal, bribe, betrayal, and one thing more, a leather box embossed in gold. She opened it. Inside was a letter, her mother's. "Voice on paper. If you are reading this, it means you survived. My brave girl, the world will call you a liar, a thief, a mistake. But you are none of those things. You are truth. You are Rashid, and the future belongs to you. Tell our story. Show them what they did, and never ever bow again." Tears streamed down Isabella's cheeks, but behind her, footsteps. Duarte turned, gun drawn. Leo stepped out of the shadows, alone. No guards, no Victor, just him. And he looked broken. "I'm not here to fight," he said. Duarte aimed. "One wrong move." "I'm not my father," Leo said. "I'm here to make things right." Isabella stared at him. "Then prove it," she said. "Help me take them down." Leo looked at the vault, then back at her, and nodded. The vault door sealed behind them with a deep, echoing thud. Isabella, Duarte, and Leo stood in the center of a hidden empire. Documents, tapes, financial codes, and photos that could crush monarchies and shatter powerful corporations. Leo stared at the golden box in Isabella's hands, her mother's final letter, and for the first time in years, he looked like a child again, not a man caught in a machine. "I never knew it was this deep," he whispered. Isabella turned toward him. Her voice was steel now. "You didn't want to know." Leo didn't deny it. Duarte leaned over the monitors. "Victor knows we're here. We don't have long." "I only need one thing," Isabella said. She inserted a flash drive, downloading the core files. "This vault was never just about heritage. It's proof, and we're going to show the world." 2 hours later, deep in the desert, their convoy was quiet. Duarte drove the lead jeep. Isabella sat in the back, clutching the drive. Leo followed in another vehicle, eyes scanning the horizon. They headed for a secret airstrip. Duarte's allies had secured From there, they'd fly to Iceland, the only neutral location with the tech to launch a worldwide leak. But 10 miles from the airstrip, Isabella spotted dust rising behind them. "Tail," she said calmly. Duarte glanced in the mirror. "Victor's. Private security." Leo's voice came over the radio. "They're armed. 3 SUVs. Isabella didn't blink. "We end it here." Duarte grinned. "I hoped you'd say that." They veered off-road, barreling toward a ravine where they could funnel the vehicles into a trap. Duarte tossed Isabella a rifle. "You ever shoot before?" "No," she said, then smirked. "But I'm a fast learner." The ambush they took position along the rocks. Isabella crouched with her rifle, Duarte at her side. Leo, surprisingly, took the most dangerous flank. The SUVs skidded into the ravine, and immediately Duarte fired a warning shot into the lead vehicles. Hood, smoke poured out. Men in black armor jumped out, armed with semi-autos, but they hadn't expected resistance. Isabella held her breath. Fired. Her shot struck one man's leg. He dropped, screaming. Leo tackled another from behind, disarming him, and using his weapon against the rest. When it was over, 5 men were down. 2 ran off. 1 surrendered. Duarte tied him to the jeep. "Tell Victor," he said coldly, "his empire dies tomorrow." They left the man trembling in the sand. Reykjavik, Iceland. 36 hours later, a blizzard howled outside the secure safe house built into a cliffside communications hub. Inside, Isabella plugged in the final drive. Duarte and a small, loyal team, ex-agents, whistleblowers, tech experts, prepared the server for a global release. "Are you ready?" Duarte asked. Isabella took a deep breath. Yes, with a single command, they uploaded everything. Hundreds of terabytes of corruption, cover-ups, stolen funds, and assassination orders, tied to over 70 world figures, flooded into the dark. Web and selected journalists' inboxes. Newsrooms lit up from London to Tokyo. Anonymous networks exploded with the leak. Isabella stood watching the lines of code fly across the screen. "Do you think it'll work?" Leo asked quietly. She turned. "It already has." 48 hours later, the world erupts. Princess Rashid returns. Leaked vault exposes decades of royal corruption. Victor Moreau linked to global Black Ops network. Missing Prince Adrian alive. Secret bride survives assassination. In fights back. Woman humiliated at wedding brings world to its knees. In palaces, boardrooms and military offices, panic reigned. Victor's assets were frozen. Several leaders resigned. Interpol opened investigations. A firestorm had been unleashed, and it had a face, Isabella Rashid. Geneva, World Justice Summit, and days later, Isabella walked up the steps of the Grand Tribunal, wearing a simple white dress and her mother's ring. She looked neither royal nor vengeful, only steady. In her hands, she held her last testimony, the truth, delivered not with revenge but purpose. Reporters swarmed. Protesters cheered. Opponents screamed. But she didn't flinch. Inside, she took the stand. "I was insulted on my wedding day," she began. Not just by a man or his family, but by a system that thought erasing a girl would be easier than facing her truth. She looked up, voice clear. "My name is Isabella Rashid, and I am not a secret anymore." Private moment. Later that night, after the hearings, she returned to her apartment. Modest, safe, guarded, she lit a single candle and placed it by the window, a tribute to her mother. And to her father, wherever he was. The door opened. Leo stepped in. "You sure this is how you want to live? Quiet, unknown, hunted by half the world?" She turned to him. "I don't need to be known," she said. "I just need to be honest." He nodded, then held out a small black box. Inside, a ring, simple, silver. A symbol, not a possession. "I don't expect anything," Leo said. "But if someday you believe I've earned your forgiveness," she closed the box gently. "Someday," she said. but not today. Final scene. Jordan months later, Isabella stood at the old vault, now sealed forever. A stone plaque had been placed outside, to the silenced, the betrayed, and the erased. May your truths never be buried again. She placed her mother's ring into the earth and walked away, not broken, not hidden, but whole. Final message. Moral. Sometimes being broken is how we begin again. Sometimes the truth costs everything, but it's the only thing that sets us free.